Okay, we are live. Good morning, Spire Nation. It is October 4th. We're kicking off this week, but we're not just kicking off this week. We are actually kicking off this last quarter of the year. I can't believe it's already the last quarter of the year. It's like this year just started, and we're going strong. So today, to kick off not just this week, but also Q4, I have a very, very special guest. And right now, go ahead and grab something to write on and write with, because you want to take some notes, because this gentleman is going to bring you guys some nuggets. And before we write anything else down, write down October 7th, 5:30, Atlanta, American Cut in Buckhead, rooftop bar. We are going to come together as Aspire Nation in person, American Cut Rooftop Bar on Thursday, October 7th, with this incredible gentleman whom I'm about to introduce to you. And he's fascinating. And I'm so glad that you guys tuned in this morning, because he's an author. He has an ongoing book series entitled Motivation for the Masses, a poetic autobiography, a collection of collections. And he's a motivational speaker. He's a poet. He's a keynote. He is directly from here, Atlanta, GA. I live in the West End. Your upbringing wasn't far from where I live today. Also had upbringing in Tennessee. Went to Iraq and Qatar as a civilian with the Department of Defense, and worked in IT. You heard me correctly, a poet that works in IT. He came back. He's a subject matter expert in engineer and IT, and has created his own IT training and consulting business to support entrepreneurs, to support support also high school and college students. And out of that, we're going to, because I got questions. We have John F. Dilworth, the poet, the IT expert, here with us at Spire Nation, who's also going to be our keynote on Thursday. John, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Greetings, everybody. Happy Monday. Happy fourth quarter. Let's make it happen.
Let's make it happen. Look, you're a poet, and you're an IT specialist. How in the world does an IT specialist become a poet?
It's interesting because it's actually the other way around. The poet became an IT guy, right? Because poetry is my first love. That's where it all started for me. I've been writing since I was dared to write a poem by a beautiful young lady at the age of 16. And so that's where I really found my passion, was poetry. But I also studied technology, and I think the two worlds kind of found a way to coincide as I grew up and became a man, having to support a household. So IT did that for me. But my heart and my purpose and my passion are tied to the words that I've been fortunate enough to share throughout my life.
As I said before we went live, I said, John, I'm fascinated by the IT versus the poet. And as an educator, I know what it takes to create brain synapses, because that's not something that we naturally necessarily have. Some have it. Most, children, as they grow up, they need to be developed. That means creating synapses from the left brain to the right brain. IT, definitely very left brain. Poetry, definitely something creative, very right brain. So within your upbringing, within your education as a young child, someone must have done an incredible job creating those left brain, right synapses. Who was that?
I think so. And what's interesting is that I don't know if any of it was deliberate. Growing up as a child, I was always into understanding how things worked. A lot of kids, they get the remote control cars, and you find a way to break it open and figure out how the gears turn. And that was always a big part of who I was growing up. but also the tradition of writing was there in my family without me even knowing it. After I started writing poetry, and after I learned more about myself as an adult, I started to find out that my father had that writing gift, but he didn't make it very public. My great grandmother from Arkansas, she people later discovered some of her writings, and I found out, wow, there's a part of me that has this, but it's been there the whole time, and I didn't know how closely related it was to my family. And my father, during the summer when I was growing up as a young guy, he'd make me read and do book reports, but the stuff I'd be reading would be the things from his bookshelf, which were very impactful. I was reading things like the autobiography of Malcolm X, or the destruction of Black civilization. My dad had me learning a lot of things, and I think that's what helped me to kind of develop both sides, as you say.
I love that. You said poetry was first, and it seems like within your family heritage, you have the gift of gab, because quite frankly, you don't just write, you also speak. Where did you mentioned earlier, that IT kind of filled the purpose of, supporting a family and making money. But is it really just that? Because I know that you speak on really plugging into your God-given purpose. What's deeper there in IT that serves that purpose?
That's a very good question, because I went through a point in my life where I started to realize that the more technical I got, the less creative I was seeming to become in terms of writing. I went through times where my IT engineering career was growing, but there'd be months and months that would go by without me writing a single poem. And I began to get a little bit frustrated about that. And I remember having a conversation with my mom, and I said, Mom, I believe that my God-given purpose on this planet is to motivate people with my poetry, my words. And I've gotten so wrapped up into this IT career that I feel like I'm not making that happen. And she told me, she said, John, it's not just about what you write, it's about the way people feel when they interact with you. And when she told me that, it really was an aha moment for me, because in my IT career, it kind of spun, I'm not going to say away from purely being technical, but it also started to include leadership and entrepreneurship. And as those things came into play, I found that the ability to communicate with people was sometimes a rare find in technology. A lot of
Yes.
times,
Oh boy.
bang on the keyboard with a cup of coffee, and you kind of envision the coder or the hacker, and that was never me. I was always really good with connecting with the people I was working with and communicating technological challenges to stakeholders and things of that nature. So it kind of worked together, but I had to figure out, how does this work together? How can I use my God-given gifts in a place that seems to be so technical? And when I learned to pair those two, I was able to really take technology and weave it into the fabric of who I am as a man, the same way I did with poetry.
Boy, and am I glad you figured that out, because it appears that they're worlds apart, and yet you brought it together because you were able to plug into both worlds. Now, you're writing your poetry, motivation for the masses. How do you motivate masses?
Yeah, that's also a great question, because for me, what it's always been is living as an example. And so that's what allows me the freedom to be able to operate in a motivational way in a room full of CEO, CFO, CTO, CIO, and also on a stage in a place where people are having drinks and enjoying the evening, and not even thinking about some of the most challenging parts of their life, but finding a way to make them feel motivated for the next day. There has been a lot of interaction between the two, and that's what really pushes me to keep going. And I think that as I keep going, that example is what influences others to do the same. And motivation for the masses has always been about inspiring others. That's something that I've had on my heart since I was 21 years old. And I learned that the poetry that I'd written was motivational. I hadn't been sharing it with anybody when I was that age, but when I started going through tough times, becoming a young man, reading my own poetry that I wasn't really sharing really motivated me. And I found out, wow, this is not just for me, this is for the masses. Mm. And ultimately, what I like to motivate people to do is very fundamentally unchanged since it first came into my heart, which is appreciate your blessings, learn from your mistakes, think optimistically, and use whatever it is you've been blessed with to be a blessing to somebody else. And that's all it is. It's that simple.
That's beautiful. That's some of the laws that I've talked about on these Kickstart calls before. So I'm so thrilled that you're picking them up. Now, you said a few things. You said, you know, your poetry is there to for others to feel motivated, because quite frankly, motivation comes from within. You, me, anyone else cannot motivate someone. We can inspire them to motivate themselves, because motivation is intrinsic, right? So your poetry evokes that feeling within. It kind of lights a fire within other people so they can motivate themselves to, you know, do whatever they need to be motivated for. Another thing that you said was expert modeling, right? You are there to model for others, no matter how young or old they are. And when you're able to live your God-given purpose, as you said, and you're in alignment with what you say you're going to do and what you're doing, and you're inspired by inspiring others, you're an expert model. You're an expert model in IT, and you're an expert model in poetry. Where else are you an expert model?
Oh, well, entrepreneurship is something that's also a very big passion of mine. In technology, in 2015, I was working as a senior data center engineer, and the company I worked for very abruptly lost their Microsoft practice. My specific discipline in technology is Microsoft infrastructure, systems in Microsoft, and they lost their Microsoft practice. And I remember I had just received a raise at the year end of 2014, and things were going really well. And then in January, my boss called me into the office and said, "Hey, we've got about a month left, and you and the whole Microsoft team has to go." And I had built up a lot of relationships over the years. And so I decided right there that, you know what, this is something good that's happening. And I told my old boss that. And he said, "Hey, whatever you need from me, I've got your back." And I just left from there. I had a cigar, and as I was smoking that cigar, I just started brainstorming, how am I going to break out and do this thing on my own? And that's really where the entrepreneurial lifestyle kicked in for me, because I had started my company in 2013. It started out as a training company, and we had programs for high school, college, and we were helping people to break into the IT career path. But when that happened, the training was still ongoing, but then the consulting component came into play. And over these last few years of growing that business, it's really sparked a deeper love for entrepreneurship. And it's also given me the ability to pull in that part of me that can communicate well, so that not only can I scale my own business and businesses, but I can share some of what I've learned along the way with others.
That's motivation right there as well. That's motivation with a dollar sign at the end as well.
Absolutely.
When we talked a few days ago, we talked about, we all experience failure. We have a choice, and you said it earlier in your life. One of the laws that you live by is optimism. We have a choice if we want to look at them as failures or as feedback. Now, it appears at a young age, you already knew and were taught that there is no failure, that there's just great feedback, and maybe it takes a cigar to light and lean back and go, okay, so, what are the other possibilities and opportunities here?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that to that point, I remember as a young guy, I probably was about 19 or 20, and I had a good friend who went to high school together, but we also were knuckleheads at the same time. And in my teenage years and as a young adult, I spent time in and out of jail. I spent time doing a lot of things that are contrary to who I really was deep down as a person, who I really am deep down as a person. And I remember being in my parents' driveway, and my friend and I, who had been doing all these crazy things together, right? Yeah, we were in and out of trouble all the time, but we were trying to kind of figure out a way to get away from that. And I told my dad, I said, man, it seems like, we keep trying to do the right thing, but for some reason, this crazy stuff keeps happening and it sets us back. And I don't know why I feel like I'm stuck in this loop. And my dad said, well, it's because you're not actually learning your lessons. He said, you're just understanding the consequences. And he said, yeah, you understand that if you do this and you get caught, this is what happens. Or if you make this bad decision, this is what happens. But he told me you haven't actually learned your lesson until you've applied that to the next the next situation. And when he told me that, that's where that feedback versus failure kind of came into my awareness, right? I was learning, wait a minute, if I don't take what I learned from this mistake and apply it to my next challenge or to the next situation where this is relevant, then I didn't really learn anything.
Right.
And when he told me that is what really helped me to start moving forward in my life and understanding the difference between failure and feedback. That I think is brilliant. And I'm glad you shared that with me because articulating it in that way is very helpful.
Yeah. Wow. What an incredible lesson, and what incredible set of parents you have. How do you define success, John?
I define success for myself as being deliberately and passionately in pursuit of purpose. For me, if I'm not, when I felt like I'm disconnected from my purpose in life, that's when I feel like I'm the furthest from success. The more I am putting my effort into being what I feel I was created to be, which is a person who's motivating others and impacting people in a positive way, the more I'm doing that, the more successful I feel. It's not about a particular goal, because I also feel that purpose is something that'll never be completely fulfilled for me. But being in deliberate and passionate pursuit of it is what makes me feel the closest to that elusive success. And that is what also drives me. That drives me to keep working forward in my life, because my purpose is directly connected to helping other people. And if I don't do it, then there's going to be a lot of people who don't get whatever it was my life was supposed to give them.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I look at people, however they define success, because success is defined by everyone individually differently. And we all, as successful people, we function with a success pattern or success patterns that we might or often enough might not be aware of. That this is the beginning or this is the trigger, and then these are the things that's happening and this is the result. And it's a pattern that you can, like, it's almost like a plug and play, right? You can put it over in your business area, you can put it over in your health area or in your fitness area, you can put it in your personal relationships. What would be a very simple success pattern that you are aware of? Like, I do this, then this happens, and then I have this outcome.
I think so remember, my definition of success is about being in pursuit of purpose, right? So for me, the success pattern starts with coming into some kind of awareness, understanding, knowledge of whatever your purpose is, right? So I think that eliminating distractions is one of the early triggers. Well, I guess the first one is wanting to even know what the purpose is, right?
Yeah.
Or if you know what your purpose is, wanting to know, how can I go farther in this? And so for me, eliminating distractions is extremely important. How did I do that? For me, it was always getting away from everything. So I can remember as a young person living at my parents' house, literally going into the crawl space under the house where nobody's there. I went under the crawl space with a candle, a jug of water, and my Bible. These were literally the things that I took down there. And I couldn't even stand up because I'm in the crawl space. But the reason I was down there is because I said, I've got to find a better way. I'm in a jail. I'm going through all this stuff that doesn't seem to have any real value in what I'm supposed to accomplish. Now, it did have value, but I had to understand that, and eliminating the distractions. No cell phone, no television screen, nothing to take me away from myself and looking within. And when I did that, I was probably down there for about 8 hours. I could hear my parents up in the house saying, "Where's Johnny? Where's Johnny?" And even though I could hear that, I wouldn't allow that to make me say, "Well, let me leave up there. They're getting worried." No, I stayed down there until I felt like I found something. And in my life, there have been a number of times where I felt I was getting away from purpose. And I'm in panic mode. Wait a minute, what am I doing? Where am I going? And I'll take time to eliminate distractions. Here, where I live now and have my home office, it's a matter of going into the bathroom, putting a towel under the door so that I can't get the light coming in, and sitting in darkness and listening to myself and being with myself, meditating, crying, falling asleep. For hours I may do this, but it allows me to hear less of the noise. And once I do that, I can move forward. And once I move forward, one of the things that keeps me moving forward is my routine. So aside from having that moment where distractions are eliminated, I also try to stick to my routine, which is waking up for me at 6:30, and that's every day. So on the weekend, holidays, I'm always waking up, and I have the morning before the phone starts ringing and the emails start slamming the inbox. In that morning time, I pray, I drink my coffee, I meditate, I do a quick exercise routine. But that morning routine has been a huge factor in the progression in my life. The consistency in that allows for me to actually accomplish progression as opposed to being stuck on that hamster wheel.
Wow, they were so many nuggets. I just took so many notes. So knowing what you want, knowing what your purpose is, really plugging into it, being aware of it, eliminating the distraction, cutting out the noise, and plugging into your routine. And that is a habit. It is something that you don't just, sometimes do, or you do it, maybe, and you do it sometimes this way and sometimes the other way. You have a very clear habit developed over probably years and years and years at this point, that keeps you grounded and get you that kickstart, because that's what we're all about with our Kickstart Monday calls, right? It's creating that habit. It's creating, learning from others. What is it that they do that works really, really well? And if you need to, take some of those elements and put them in your own life. That
Yes.
It's all about expert modeling.
Yes, absolutely. And here's one of the hidden jewels of having that routine. It's what you learn about yourself along the way.
Insights.
Because, healthy habits, productive habits are very good things, right? But know thyself. The more you understand yourself, the better equipped you are to succeed. And one of the things that's been very beneficial for me since developing this routine was, this started for me around 2015, 2016, where I started waking up early. I started with, I remember I used to, in technology, I could work from home before COVID, right? And so I remember being the kind of guy that would wake up just in time to get the day started. Sometimes I'd have my laptop sitting next to the bed, and I'd wake up in time for, okay, the first call's at 9 o'clock, or, maybe I've got some stuff I need to do. I'll start at 9. I'd wake up at 8:45, sit there in the bed, and then pull out my computer and start working. And I realized something's got to change. And so I started waking up a little bit earlier. And I found that when I take out this time to invest in myself first, the rest of the day seems to flow. Here's one of the things that's really cool. I started adding things to my routine as I had more and more time. My workout really consists of stretching, push-ups, and pull-ups. But I figured that one of the things I can do that I found that was missing in my life was the extreme, right? So I found that, I'm kind of a cool, collective guy, and pushing myself to the extreme, I haven't done enough of that. And so here's a very simple way that I pushed myself, and I've seen it do wonders in my life. My push-ups. When I first started doing push-ups, I said, well, every morning when I roll out of bed, I've got my new time now, 6:30, I'm going to do 10 push-ups. I'm just going to do 10 push-ups every day. And I did 10 push-ups. And as I did this for maybe a couple of weeks, I realized this is too easy. If I actually want to develop myself, I can't, just say, oh, the habit is healthy. That's enough. I've got to push myself in sincerity. And so I said, well, you know what? Instead of just doing 10, I'll burn out. I'll do as many as I can. And at least I can be able to look myself in the mirror and say, I tried, I gave my all. So I started doing a burnout on push-ups. And then after I started doing a burnout on push-ups, I went to doing a burnout, breathe, and then burnout again, right? So now I usually do about 100 push-ups. But the thing is that it came from truly challenging and pushing myself and not being satisfied with what I was putting out, or not being satisfied with the energy I was giving when I knew I had more in the tank. And that helps in a lot of different parts of my life, in being able to say, you know what? I've got to give my all. If I truly love this, if I'm truly passionate about this, if I truly want to grow, I can't give 50% and then think that I'm going to get further. I've got to give my all. And that's been one of the things that's really come out of me having that morning routine and being regimented, but also not ever being satisfied with that and trying to push myself even more sincerely.
There's always a plus one. There's
More
always a, yes, I agree. There's always a plus 10. If you don't think you can anymore, there's still 10 in there. What's your favorite book?
Ooh,
I see you have a lot of books back there. I know it's hard for a poet to choose.
That is hard. I will say one of the books that had one of the greatest impacts on my life, my first favorite book, is Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison. And that book deals with a lot. It deals a lot with race relations in America, about a Black man and feeling invisible in a society that sometimes doesn't want to acknowledge you as a human being or acknowledge your manhood. But Invisible Man, the teacher that first told me, the first person who ever told me I was a leader when I was in the 11th grade, that teacher, Miss Pincher, she is the one who had me to read Invisible Man. And she's the one who told me I was a leader. And that book was very influential in my life.
Wow. Thank you for that. We're coming to an end today, John. Would you want to share give us a little glimpse into your poetry?
Sure, yeah, I'm always willing to share that. Something that we talked about a few minutes ago made me think about this poem. Now let me start by saying that this poem was written when I was at one of the most financially difficult stages in my life. I was about 24 years old. I was a brand newlywed, and me and my wife at the time, we were in the midst of real struggle. And I was a new husband, and we were eating syrup sandwiches. You know, it was that kind of situation. But what I want to share with this poem is the ability, like you said, for motivation to come from within. The poem says, I've got 2 empty pockets, 4 ideas, 1 body, 1 mind, 1 soul, 0 fears, and 0 years to waste. The deadline is approaching. I'm a numbers cruncher. By day, I'm a clock puncher, but by the time the sun touches the ground, I'm a superhero, a real live entrepreneur. I speak in visions and make my own decisions, but there is one choice that I cannot choose. I cannot choose to lose. Failure is not an option because I am the best. Who am I? What am I? I am success. I make motors move. I'm the king of the gasoline dream. My skin is the color of zeal. I'm slick as the banana peel, so I should not be stepped on. I am the bed of needles. I will not be slept on. A long time ago, they tried to stop me, but I kept on, and I am still moving. There are these green lights stuck in my head. That's why I keep it moving. Adversity is to me what nappy hair is to hot phones. Just another chance to do my thing. I'm the king of the gasoline dream, and I speak in sparks and speak in visions and make my own decisions. But there is one choice that I cannot choose. I cannot choose to lose. Failure is not an option because I am the best. Who am I? What am I? I am success.
Wow. I have no words. Thank you for being here. That all in itself was a Kickstart call for the rest of my life. That was an amazing piece of poetry. It touched me very deeply. John, thank you for being here. Guys, I sure hope, share with us what you got out of it today. I sure hope it brought you into gear. Go knock this day out. Go knock this week out. Make it whatever you want. John, I look forward to seeing you at Spire. Guys, I look forward to seeing you at Spire. I like forward for you to see John at Spire. See you on Thursday. John, thank you.
Good day.
Bye-bye.